If you're serious about building authentic connections through IsiXhosa, today I'm going to be sharing 3 key ingredients that you need. My language ladder strategy, having a strong foundation in the structure of IsiXhosa, and the power of small, consistent steps. These are the core principles that I use in my Xhosa Building Blocks course to help get you there. Molo chomi, wamkelekile kwakhona kwi-YouTube channel ye Xhosa Connect. Hello chum, welcome back to the Xhosa Connect YouTube channel. Ndingu Robin, I'm Robin, and people come to me when they want to bridge the gap created by language and have real authentic connections by learning and speaking IsiXhosa. Whether you have IsiXhosa speaking friends or you serve IsiXhosa clients or communities, whether you're marrying your IsiXhosa sweetheart or you're adding an IsiXhosa speaker to your family, you have IsiXhosa speaking colleagues or people in your workforce, or you just want to connect with the IsiXhosa speakers at the shops, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Number 1 is that you do not need to be fluent to be able to hold a conversation in IsiXhosa and make a connection with someone. But what you do need is a game plan. Many years ago, I noticed within myself, even after studying IsiXhosa for a long time in school and in university, I still wasn't feeling confident to take my IsiXhosa out into the wild and hold basic conversations with people. Even though I was going into situations that were going to be places where I knew I would encounter an IsiXhosa speaker, and generally the vocab and the language that I would speak to these people would probably be quite basic, I still didn't feel confident to go into a conversation and speak IsiXhosa. Over time, I started coming up with a game plan going into these conversations. I firstly decided there are certain scenarios where I need to push myself to speak IsiXhosa. But if I'm feeling nervous to speak, what is it that is holding me back? And I realized that it was just a fear of me not knowing what people will respond back to me, or me not understanding what they have said back to me, and then feeling flustered and not being able to respond back to them. So what I started doing is coming up with a game plan for these conversations. And this is what I like to call a language ladder. When I know that I'm going to be in certain scenarios that I will most likely encounter an IsiXhosa speaker, I map out little conversations, and it just started happening organically, where I knew that I was fearing a level of unpredictability. I was scared of the uncertainty in a conversation. So I thought, okay, I kind of know what people will ask and answer here in these kinds of situations. Let me map out what I would say in IsiXhosa. This kind of language ladder strategy works really well in conversations where there is a level of predictability and you know that you will encounter this conversation or these kinds of scenarios again and again and again, so that you can keep practicing it. So for example, ordering a coffee at a coffee shop, or chatting to a cashier, or something that's short and predictable. What I do is I map out what I am going to say, and I try to kind of guess, based on the predictable nature of the situation, what the other person will say back to me. This takes out the level of uncertainty where I don't know what they're going to say back to me, because I have an idea of what they would say back to me, and then I'm prepared on what I am going to say next. So I've had many students come to me saying that they feel like they can't take their IsiXhosa out into the wild. They don't feel confident, they feel shy to speak, and even though the language of the conversation would probably be basic, they feel they can't take this out into the wild. And that's when I use my language ladder strategy. This works really well because it helps to build conversational confidence in a predictable, low stress way, and you can do it again and again and again until you get better. Now, you might be thinking, doesn't this remove the authenticity and the flow of the conversation because it might become robotic? Of course, we can't use this kind of strategy for absolutely every situation, but to get you to the point where you are actually using your IsiXhosa out in the world, just to start, this is a great way to start to build your conversational confidence. What I recommend is that people keep their language ladders on their phones or in their notes app or somewhere that is convenient to take out. And when you have these conversations, you might want to edit your responses or edit what they've said and just make a note of all of it, so that when you go into the situation again, you're better prepared for the next situation. The other thing that is needed to make this strategy work really well. It's a real commitment that every time you're in that situation, you commit, you promise yourself that you will try your hardest to speak in Xhosa. Just last week, I had 2 students come to me on separate occasions saying exactly this. They didn't feel confident to use the Xhosa out in the world. We followed this exact language ladder strategy. We chose a scenario that was predictable and repeatable. We mapped out both sides of the conversation, made sure there was a greeting, some questions and answers in the middle, and then a goodbye. And for both students, one of them was within a week, they had their conversation in Xhosa out in the world, and it just made their confidence grow so much. I could see in their face that they were excited, they'd had the conversation, it was a positive experience, and it helped to build their confidence, and just showing them that they don't need to be super fluent in order to speak and connect with people. My other student had her conversation within an hour. She took this out into the wild, and it was such an awesome conversation. They were so proud of themselves, and it was just so awesome to see people building their confidence, connecting with people in Xhosa, and that's what we like to see. Now, my language ladder strategy is something that I use a lot and I teach in my Xhosa Building Blocks course. And this is a strategy that I wholeheartedly believe in and I have used myself. Number 2, the next thing that we need to learn Xhosa is a good understanding of the key foundational concepts that underpin and make up the structure of Xhosa. It's no secret that Xhosa is structured differently to other languages we might know. For example, languages in the Germanic language family like English or Afrikaans. So Xhosa is part of the Bantu, broader language family, and so naturally it is structured differently than other languages that we might know. To really get a grasp of the language and also to be able to progress our language, I believe there are really 2 key foundational concepts to understand the structure of the language of Xhosa. This helps us to grasp the language better, but also to progress our knowledge of Xhosa a little bit further than just the beginning stages of learning a language. To really understand these concepts means that you can build on the knowledge that you have of Xhosa. Of course, to an extent, any other strategy that you apply to learning another language will help, but there will likely be a point where if you're not understanding these foundational concepts, you will struggle to progress your proficiency in Xhosa, especially as an adult language learner that is maybe not immersed all the time in Xhosa. Doesn't mean you can't learn it. It just means that understanding these concepts makes things a lot easier. They're not difficult, they just are foundational concepts. Learning these are really important, and it really helps to put the pieces of the puzzle together. This helps to build motivation and enthusiasm to continue learning the language. I know that when I really began to understand these foundational concepts, it made things a lot more exciting for me, and it opened up a whole new world of communication and understanding the language. So learning these concepts is really important. I love to teach them. And so, of course, they are in my Xhosa Building Blocks course. I break it down, I make it simple, and this really helps to be able to build a foundation where you're not just learning to become conversational in my Xhosa Building Blocks course, but you are also building a foundation to continue your learning beyond just becoming conversational, beyond the course, and giving yourself a framework to really grow your language. The third thing that we need to learn Xhosa is small chunks of consistent learning. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and learn Xhosa for hours and hours and hours every day. But what I am saying is consistent input, even small chunks of input, a couple of minutes a day, a couple of minutes a few times a week, is often more beneficial than sitting on 1 day a week and cramming 3 hours of learning. So it's really important to have this consistent input of learning Xhosa, making it a habit to learn it regularly. A couple of minutes, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever you can fit in, a couple of times a week really, really helps. Just like how we build cardiovascular fitness and strength, we need to be consistently providing stimulus and input for our cardiovascular system and for our muscles to build the strength, it's exactly the same with exercising the muscle of learning a language, our language learning muscle. And that is exactly why in my Xhosa Building Blocks course, I don't offer you hundreds and hundreds of videos with hours and hours of learning. I have really divided each module up into 1 or 2 videos that are very targeted towards the exact concept that we are learning, a little bit of practice, and that is your learning for the day. So it's really important to just learn those concepts. You can come back and visit them again, practice them as much as you can, and even if it just means that some days a week you are just learning a vocab for 15-20 minutes, as long as you're providing that regular input. These 3 concepts are really some of the key ingredients that shape my philosophy around learning, speaking, and teaching Xhosa. We had our language ladders for building conversational confidence. We had our key foundational concepts of the language of Xhosa, and we had our small chunks of consistent language input. If you are interested to find out more about how I use these concepts in my Xhosa Building Blocks course, and you are ready to embark on your journey to learning Xhosa, connecting with fellow South Africans, and really building conversational connections with people, then check out the link in my description below where you can enroll in Xhosa Building Blocks today. Enkosi kakhulu, thank you so much for joining us today, and sobonana kwakhona kamsinyane. See you again soon. Bye bye yini.